The story began on a quiet cold morning when a single dad named Amir stood in front of a broken wooden cabin deep inside a quiet valley where the trees stood tall and the wind moved softly through dry leaves, and he felt a heavy mix of worry and hope inside his heart because this old damaged place was the only shelter he could offer to his two young kids after his wife left without any message or reason, and life changed for him in one single day as he found himself holding both children close. While trying to stay strong for them, even when he felt unsure about everything around him, the cabin looked tired with a bending roof, loose boards, and a door that barely stayed on its hinges. Yet Amir imagined something better, something warm, something safe for his children, because he believed that even broken places can shine again if someone works with steady hands and a brave heart. He walked across the soft ground, pushing the door open, and saw dust floating in the light that slipped through cracks in the wall, and he could hear small sounds of insects hidden in the corners. Still, he felt no fear because his mind was already thinking about how this empty, forgotten cabin could turn into a real home. He remembered how the landlord offered it for almost no cost because nobody wanted to fix it, and that small blessing felt like a chance he did not want to lose. For Amir, every day had become a test since his wife walked out, leaving behind only confusion and sadness for the children, but he promised himself he would not let the pain guide his future. Instead, he chose to focus on giving his kids a safe place where they could smile again, even if the path toward that hope took long hours and hard effort. He placed his bag on the uneven floor and walked around the cabin, touching the walls and checking the old fireplace, then stepped outside again to look at the wide sky above the valley, wondering how he would begin this journey. The sound of his children calling his name brought him back to the present, and he turned to see both of them running down the small hill, their hands holding each other, and their eyes shining with trust that warmed his spirit. They stood beside him, looking at the cabin with innocent curiosity, and he smiled gently, trying to show confidence so they would not feel worried. He knelt down and told them that this place would become their new home, and he would make it comfortable, bright, and full of warmth for them. The children nodded, believing every word, because they knew their father always kept his promises, even when life became difficult. As they explored the small ground around the cabin, Amir noticed old logs scattered beside the tree line, and he knew these would help him repair the broken parts of the structure. He began planning step by step in his mind, thinking about cleaning the inside, clearing the outside, fixing the roof, and making strong walls that could protect them from cold nights. He felt tired, but also determined, because every challenge reminded him why he was doing this: for his children, for their safety, for their smiles, for their future. With the sun rising higher, he started cleaning the cabin, removing dust, sweeping the floor, and opening the small windows so fresh air could enter. He found old tools left by someone long ago, and even though they were rusty, he felt grateful because they would help him begin the first repairs. While he worked, he thought about the past, about the day his wife walked away, leaving behind only a short message saying she could not handle the pressure of a simple life anymore, and Amir had no choice but to accept it and move forward for the sake of the kids. He did not speak about the pain to anyone, he simply held it inside and turned it into fuel for strength. The children played outside, gathering small stones and sticks, pretending they were building a small village, and their laughter reached Amir through the window, filling the empty cabin with a gentle kind of energy that made him work even faster. He wanted to finish the place soon so his kids would not have to sleep in cold corners or worry about the creaking sounds of an old roof. As he scrubbed the walls, he discovered faded marks carved into the wood, maybe by someone who lived here long ago, maybe someone who also tried to make a new beginning. And that thought encouraged him even more because it reminded him that every broken place carries a story, and every story carries hope when someone chooses to rebuild instead of walking away. The day slowly passed, and Amir continued working without stopping, even when his hands felt sore and his back felt stiff, because he knew the first steps were always the hardest. He carried out piles of old leaves, torn fabric, broken wood pieces, and other forgotten things that once belonged to someone else. When he looked inside again, the cabin already felt a little lighter, a little cleaner, and a little closer to becoming a real home. His children came inside and stood beside him, admiring the space and telling him it already looked better, and these simple words felt like a warm light inside his chest. He placed his hand on their heads and promised again that he would keep working until the place felt perfect for them. As the sun slowly began to set, the valley grew quiet, and the sky turned soft shades of orange and gold. Amir stepped outside, taking a deep breath and watching the view with calm eyes. For the first time in many days, he felt tired, but also stronger than he had felt since his wife left, because this cabin was not just a shelter, it was a sign that he could still shape a good life for his children. Even after everything that happened, he looked at his kids sitting on the grass, smiling at him with complete trust, and he knew he would give every bit of strength he had to rebuild their world, starting with this broken cabin that was slowly turning into a symbol of hope and new beginnings. The next morning, Amir woke before the sun touched the tops of the tall trees, and he stepped outside the cabin feeling the cold air on his face while the quiet sounds of birds slowly filled the valley with a peaceful rhythm that gave him courage to begin another long day of work because he knew every hour mattered in shaping a better home for his children, and he wanted them to feel safe and happy without carrying the weight of the past on their young hearts. He looked at the cabin with fresh determination, noticing again the broken roof, the weak walls, and the uneven floor, and he reminded himself that everything can be rebuilt with steady effort, patience, and hope. He walked back inside and found his children still sleeping close to each other wrapped in a single blanket because the cabin was still too cold, but their calm faces reminded him why he must keep going no matter how hard the work became. He decided to start with the roof since it was the most important part for protection, and he began gathering old logs he found the previous day, using his hands and shoulders to drag them toward the cabin step by step until he had enough wood to begin repairs. The wood was heavy and rough, and his hands soon became tired, but he did not complain because he believed that love is not measured by words but by actions, and every movement he made was a promise to his children that he would give them a better place to live. As he worked, he heard small footsteps behind him, and he turned to see his daughter rubbing her sleepy eyes and watching him with quiet concern, and when she asked if he needed help, his heart softened because he knew she wanted to share his burden. Even though she was still young, he smiled gently and asked her to bring him smaller sticks from the ground so she could feel included without facing danger, and she nodded happily, beginning her own little task with great seriousness. Soon his son woke up as well and joined them, carrying fallen branches toward the pile, and even though their help was small, it filled Amir with new energy because the sight of his children working beside him made him feel that they were building not only a home but also a new bond, strength and trust that would last through many hard days together. They fixed the roof board by board, slowly lifting each piece into place and securing it with old nails found in the corner of the cabin, and every sound of the hammer felt like a heartbeat of new life entering the old structure. Hours passed, and Amir climbed down, feeling the sun finally warming the valley, and he looked up to see a roof that no longer sagged and no longer had large gaps letting in the cold wind. It was not perfect, but it was strong enough to protect his children from rain and cold nights, and that made his tired arms feel light with satisfaction. After a short rest, he turned his attention to the walls, which had cracks that allowed the air to slip through. He gathered mud, mixed it with dry leaves, and began pressing it into the cracks, a slow process that required patience, but Amir had learned patience from many difficult moments in his life, so he worked without frustration, focusing on the future he wanted to create rather than the memories that held pain. While he repaired the walls, his children played outside, collecting small smooth stones and arranging them in circles, pretending they were making a garden, and hearing their laughter gave Amir something priceless, a reminder that joy can exist even in the middle of struggle, and that children carry a light that can brighten even the darkest paths. When he finished the walls, he stepped outside, again wiping sweat from his forehead and looking around at the progress they had done. More than he expected in just one day, and the cabin was already beginning to look alive again, not as a forgotten ruin, but as a place where family could grow and dreams could breathe. He walked toward the children and told them he was proud of their spirit and effort, and they hugged him tightly, their small arms filling him with warmth that no fire could ever give. As the afternoon passed, Amir decided to work on the fireplace because a warm fire would help them survive the coming cold nights. He cleared the ash and broken stones inside it, arranging new stones, and creating a safe place for a small fire that would fill the cabin with comfort and heat. He found dry branches, placed them gently, and tested the fireplace with a tiny flame, watching it grow slowly into a soft glow that danced across the cabin walls, bringing life to the once cold interior. When the children saw the warm light, they ran inside and sat near it, feeling the pleasant heat touch their hands and faces, and their smiles reminded Amir that even small steps can create big changes in the hearts of those we love. As evening approached, the valley grew quiet again, and Amir felt a calm sense of pride inside his chest because the cabin no longer looked broken and hopeless. Instead, it looked like a place where a family could begin again. He cooked a simple meal over the fire, and the three of them ate together, sharing stories, laughs, and gentle moments that eased the weight of the past. The children told him they loved the cabin, and they believed it would soon become the best home they ever had, and these words reached deep inside him, giving him strength for the days ahead. After the meal, they sat outside under the soft sky, watching stars appear one by one, and the children leaned against their father, feeling safe and protected in a way they had not felt for a long time. Amir looked at them with grateful eyes, knowing that even though his life had changed in painful ways, he had gained something valuable, the chance to rebuild a new world for his children, shaped by love, patience, and courage. When the night grew colder, he carried them inside, placed them near the warm fire, and covered them with a soft blanket, and just before they fell asleep, they whispered that they believed in him completely. Amir sat beside them for a long moment, listening to their calm breathing, and realizing that the broken cabin was teaching him something too, that sometimes when life removes What we thought we needed, it gives us a new chance to discover strength inside ourselves. As he watched the fire glow, he felt something he had not felt in a long time, hope, a soft, steady hope that told him tomorrow would bring even more progress, and even more courage for the family that depended on him, and he closed his eyes for a moment knowing he would rise again with the sun, ready to continue their journey toward a brighter life. The next day arrived with a soft golden light spreading through the trees, and Amir woke with renewed energy because the progress he made yesterday gave him confidence that the broken cabin could truly become a warm home for his children, and as he looked at them still sleeping near the fireplace, he felt a gentle joy knowing they were finally resting without fear or sadness which had followed them for many months after their mother left. In that quiet moment, he promised himself once again that he would not let the past shape their future, and he stepped outside, ready to begin another day of steady work with hope guiding his steps. He knew the yard around the cabin needed attention as much as the inside, because the ground was covered with weeds, rocks, and fallen branches, making the place look abandoned rather than welcoming. So he picked up a long stick and started clearing the area, slowly pushing aside dry plants and gathering stones into small piles while the morning air carried the smell of fresh earth and pine trees. After some time, his children joined him, still rubbing sleep from their eyes but excited about helping, and Amir welcomed them with a warm smile, asking them to collect small twigs for firewood, while he focused on smoothing the ground and removing sharp stones that could hurt them when they played. Later, when they worked together, the cabin no longer felt like an isolated, lonely place. Instead, it felt like a space slowly filling with life, laughter, and purpose, and Amir felt a peaceful strength building inside him as he watched his children climb over small rocks and laugh at tiny bugs moving in the grass. Once the yard looked cleaner, Amir planned the next important task, which was building a small fence around the cabin to keep wild animals away during the night, and to give the children a safe boundary to play within, because he wanted them to feel protected at all times, even when he was busy repairing something. He took old wooden planks found behind the cabin and began shaping them into simple posts using a small tool he discovered under a loose floorboard, and though the tool was dull and worn, he used it with patience, carving one post after another. While the sun climbed slowly across the sky, the children watched him with curiosity, and his son asked if he could help hold the planks steady, and Amir agreed, guiding him carefully and teaching him how to stand firm and safe during the process. And this simple teamwork filled the boy with pride, making him feel strong and useful. After hours of effort, the fence formed a gentle circle around the cabin, and though it was not tall or perfect, it showed love, care, and protection, and Amir felt grateful when he saw his daughter touch the fence and say it looked like the cabin was finally getting its own warm hug. With the fence complete, he turned his attention to the inside again, because the cabin still needed furniture and small comforts to make it feel truly like home. So he searched the nearby woods for long branches that could be shaped into simple chairs and small shelves for storing their few belongings. He selected strong branches and carried them back to the cabin, cutting them into pieces and arranging them on the ground until he formed the shape of a basic chair, and he worked slowly, carving, smoothing, and fitting each piece together until it could hold weight without shaking. While he worked, the children sat near him, drawing shapes in the dirt with small sticks and talking about how they wanted to decorate their new home, and listening to their dreams made Amir smile, because it told him they were beginning to feel hope and excitement again, something he had feared they would never feel after their mother left. By mid-afternoon, the chair was complete, and Amir made a small table next to it using leftover wood, and when the children saw it, they clapped with pure joy, racing inside the cabin to place the chair near the fireplace and pretending it was a throne for storytime. Their happiness gave Amir new strength, and he continued making simple shelves, arranging them along the wall where their clothes and small items could rest neatly, and he felt proud that his hands could shape so much even with old tools and limited resources. Later that day, a gentle breeze carried the smell of rain, and Amir knew he needed to protect the area around the cabin, so he created a narrow pathway using flat stones he had collected earlier, arranging them in a clean line leading from the door to the edge of the fence, and this simple path made the place look cared for, loved, and lived in. He also placed larger stones near the cabin walls to strengthen the foundation and stop water from seeping inside during storms, and as he worked, he thought about how every small improvement was not just repairing a building, but also rebuilding a life for his children, a life filled with stability, peace, and warmth. When the sky darkened with clouds, Amir guided the children inside, and they sat together near the fire watching the first drops fall on the roof, and Amir felt proud when he heard the sound of rain hitting the new boards he had fixed, because the roof held strong without leaking, and the children smiled knowing they were safe from the storm. He cooked a small meal, and they ate with comfort, feeling the warmth of the fire and the steady rhythm of the rain soothing their hearts. The children shared stories about what they wanted to plant in the yard and how they wanted to paint their room when they found some colors, and Amir listened with full attention, feeling grateful that his children were imagining a future again, a future they once feared would never come. As the rain continued through the evening, Amir told them stories about his own childhood, about the simple joys he once had when he lived in a small house with his parents, and how even the smallest things like warm light and peaceful nights made life feel rich and full. His children listened closely, leaning against him with trust and affection, and Amir felt the heavy pain inside his heart slowly turning into a calm strength that guided him every time he felt unsure. When the children fell asleep near the warm fire, Amir stayed awake, watching the flames dance across the walls, and thinking about how far they had come since the day they arrived at the broken cabin that once looked hopeless but now looked alive again. He knew the journey was not over, but he could see clearly that they were moving toward a brighter future, step by step, day by day, and he closed his eyes for a moment, feeling grateful for the quiet calm around him, and hopeful for the morning that would come soon. The next morning the storm clouds were gone, and the valley felt washed clean by the night rain, and Amir stepped outside the cabin, breathing in the cool fresh air, while the sunlight broke gently through the trees, and he felt a calm strength settling in his heart as he looked around at everything he had repaired so far, because each change reminded him that life can rise again even after difficult times. He watched his children still asleep near the warm ashes of the fire, and he felt grateful that they had slept peacefully without fear or sadness, and he knew he needed to continue building the life they deserved. Before the children woke, he walked around the cabin, checking the roof, the fence, and the pathway, and he noticed that the fence had leaned slightly during the storm, so he decided to fix it first. He lifted the posts one by one, pressing them deeper into the ground, while whispering small prayers for more strength, patience, and courage, because he knew these qualities were the foundation of every good home. After some time his daughter stepped out, rubbing her eyes and asking if he needed help, and her voice felt like a gentle light that softened his tired muscles, and he gave her a small task to gather fallen leaves so the yard would stay clean. Soon his son came out as well, holding a small stick as if it were a tool, and he stood proudly beside his father, wanting to help in any way he could, and Amir guided him with care, showing him where to stand and how to hold the fence steady without getting hurt. Working side by side made the morning feel warm, even though the ground still held traces of the cold rain, and Amir realized how much their bond had grown since the day they arrived at the cabin, because now they moved like a small team driven by love, hope, and the belief that better days were coming. Once the fence stood firmly again, Amir turned his attention to the cabin interior, because it still needed soft places for the children to sleep, and he wanted to make a small bed frame for each of them so they would no longer sleep on the rough floor. Even though they never complained, he gathered thicker branches from the woods, selecting each one carefully so it would be strong enough to hold weight, and he carried them back to the cabin, where he shaped and arranged them into simple frames. The children watched with wide eyes as the frames slowly took form, and they brought small stones and twigs, pretending they were tools just like their father, as they mimicked his movements with tiny hands full of excitement and pride. As he built the beds, Amir remembered the pain he felt when his wife walked away, leaving him with unanswered questions, but instead of letting that memory hurt him, he used it as fuel to work harder, because he understood that his children needed his love and strength more than ever, and this cabin was the first big step toward giving them a safe future. By midday, he finished the frames and placed them near the warm side of the cabin, then gathered dry grass and old cloth to make soft bedding, and when the children lay down on their new beds, their faces lit up with pure joy and gratitude, and they hugged him tightly, telling him the beds felt like clouds, and his heart felt full knowing he had given them one more piece of comfort they deserved. After resting for a moment, Amir decided to clear the small stream behind the cabin, because clean water was important for their daily needs, and the stream had been blocked by fallen branches and heavy stones. During the storm, he walked with his children to the edge of the stream where the water barely moved, and he began lifting rocks and pulling out tangled branches, letting the water flow freely again, and the sound of running water brought a peaceful rhythm to the valley, making the place feel more alive and safe. The children splashed their hands in the clear stream, laughing as the cool water touched their skin, and Amir watched them with a warm smile, knowing moments like these were building memories that would stay with him forever, memories filled with hope, not sadness. After clearing the stream, he noticed a small flat area beside it where sunlight fell perfectly, and he thought it would be a good place for a tiny garden where they could grow simple vegetables and flowers to brighten the cabin. He began clearing the soil, loosening the dirt with a long stick, and the children joined him, gently placing seeds they had kept from fruits they ate earlier, and though they were small seeds, they represented something big, a sign of their new beginning and their belief in tomorrow. As the day moved toward evening, Amir returned to the cabin and began smoothing the walls inside using wet clay he mixed with straw, so the cabin would stay warm during cold nights, and every stroke of his hand carried love, patience, and hope, because he was building not just a structure, but a safe world for his children. When he finished, he lit a gentle fire in the fireplace, and the cabin filled with warm light, making the entire place glow softly, and the children sat close to him telling him stories they imagined, like how the cabin once belonged to a brave traveler, or how the valley held secret paths leading to magical places, and Amir listened with a peaceful smile, grateful that their hearts were healing. Little by little they ate a simple meal together, and after finishing the children sat outside with Amir watching the sun dip behind the hills and the sky change into soft shades of orange and pink, and the gentle wind brushed their faces, carrying the scent of pine and fresh soil. And in that quiet moment Amir felt something deep within him settle with calm certainty, because he knew they were no longer just surviving, they were rebuilding, shaping, and rising stronger than before. As the stars appeared one by one, the children leaned against him, their heads resting on his shoulders, and they whispered that they loved the new home, and they loved him for giving them safety, warmth, and hope, and Amir held them close, feeling tears rise in his eyes, not from sadness but from a deep gratitude that life had given him a chance to protect, guide, and love his children in a way that shaped their future. When they finally went to sleep on their new beds, Amir stayed awake a little longer, watching the fire crackle and glow across the walls, and he thought about everything they had built together, and everything they would still build in days to come. He realized the broken cabin was no longer broken. It had become a symbol of courage, love, and the unshakable bond between a father and his children, and with that thought warming his entire heart, he closed his eyes, feeling ready for the new world they were creating step by step.